teaching the Braille Slate and Stylus. With Sally S. Mangold, Ph.D., Professor, Special Education, San Francisco State University.
In 1819, about the same time that Louis Braille entered the Paris Institute for the Blind, Charles Barbier, an officer in the French army, announced an amazing invention that would later allow Louis Braille to make his lasting contribution. You see, Barbier wanted to find a means by which people could communicate messages in the dark, mainly for military purposes. He first used dots and dashes in relief on cardboard, but later he used dot system on heavy paper. There were 12 dots in all, arranged in 2 vertical columns with 6 dots each. The words were written phonetically and never spelled out. Barbier had also invented a Slate Stylus writing device, which is essentially the same as what is in use today. From the beginning, though, Louis Braille recognized that the 12-dot arrangement was just not practical. It couldn't be covered by the fingertips. He reduced the number of dots to 6, 2 columns, arranged vertically with 3 dots in each column. Then he proceeded to assign the available 63 combinations of dots to letters, punctuation, and mathematical indicators. The Braille Slate Stylus is the first reliable writing device for the blind. The availability in many sizes, the portability for any use, and the low cost make them irreplaceable. Even high technology can never replace the Slate Stylus, any more than technology replaces a pen or a pencil.
As much as I use technology, electronic reading machines, electronic Braille displays, note takers with voice output, I still refer to the necessity of a Slate Stylus. Using a Slate Stylus allows me to Braille a name, an address, and a phone number. The phone number is my note that I can stick in my pocket. I can hand it off to somebody, and they can have a record if they happen to be a Braille reader. Or I can file it into my file cards with all the other phone numbers, addresses, resource materials that I have. Electronically, that could all be done, but it takes time to boot up a computer. It takes time to get the computer out of your pocket, turn it on, find your place, when that's all you really might want to do is write down a phone number. Your name is John DeWitt. And your phone number, John. Okay. 209 342 7827. Okay, John, and thank you. I'll see you at 2 on Friday. Okay, sir. Good day to you. 23, 24, 25. Okay.
Learning to use or learning to teach the Braille Slate Stylus has always been a folk process. Each generation has verbally instructed the next. Now we do have a book, though, that explains the most commonly used methods. But the techniques presented in that book or presented here are not the only methods ever used. Today, the Braille Slate Stylus is primarily used for classroom note-taking, making labels for records, spice bottles, medicine containers, and so on, or for short reminders, a grocery item, a telephone number, a luncheon date, or maybe an inventory note for a small business owner.
3220. 3220. When I get a delivery, I pay it, I take the invoice, and I put the invoice away, and then I write in with my Braille slate, I write it down so I can refer to it later at home in order to put it into the computer.
A slate is easy for me to carry on. Just put a paper in it, you know, and make my shopping list. It's easy than to carry the Brailler.
Once someone has mastered the use of the Braille writer, it's time to introduce the Slate Stylus. When Braille is read, the dots are raised and you read from left to right. When Braille is written on the slate, the dots are pushed through the paper with the stylus and they come out on the bottom side. You write from right to left. The paper is then removed from the slate, turned over, and read from left to right. Many kinds of slates are available. There's the desk slate. Much like a clipboard, it holds the paper at the top, and the slate can be moved down the board as it's used. There are pocket slates, usually 4 lines. Some have 27, some have 28, some have only 19 cells, depending on what you want to use them for. There is a microdot slate. The size of the dot is about 2/3 as big as a standard dot. The tip of the stylus is smaller too. You slate on one side of the microdot slate, this particular one. You can turn it over and slate on the other side and end up with Braille on both sides of the page. There are specialized slates. This is a single line slate made exclusively for making labels out of Dymo tape. Here's another specialized slate, an audio cassette label maker, where the cassette labels are cut precisely to avoid the holes in the cassette. And the slate allows you to only write on that available area. And other designs of slates are available too. Now the styluses come in an array of sizes and shapes. The standard stylus comes in 2 sizes. The small size was first invented for small first and second graders with small hands, not used much today. They were used primarily before Braille writers were available. The pencil stylus is used by transcribers to add 1 or 2 dots to a manuscript, but not widely used by individuals who are blind. The flat stylus won't roll away from you. The hexagon won't roll away as easily as the standard stylus. And this tuck away is very popular. You unscrew the tip, turn the shank around, and push the shank up into the handle of the stylus, and then tighten it up again. In this way, it won't poke a hole in a purse or a pocket. There are 2 main kinds of papers, sheets of paper that are used in the slate. Standard Braille paper is far too heavy to be used very long without getting tired. The lightweight Braille paper, 70 weight, is very popular, very accessible. It's found in a number of locations. The plastic paper used for thermoforming is another popular sheet to be used in a slate. It's more durable than paper, and it's absolutely silent when you use it. You must first load the slate with paper before you can use it. With the desk slate, you open up the clip at the top, put the paper under the clip, close the clip. Then all you need to do is close up the slate, and you're ready to work. There are several popular ways to load a pocket slate, but the most common one that's the easiest to teach and the easiest to learn is where you take the pocket slate, place it in front of the learner so that the hinge is on the left, tip it up away from the user so that the open cells are away from the user, and you set it on the table a little wider than a 90-degree angle. The paper is then placed against the bottom, standing straight up in the air so the top of the paper is against the surface of the table. And then you just merely close it up, place it flat in front of the user, and you're ready to go. Both hands play an important role, and because of this, most people hold the stylus in the right hand even if they're left-handed. The stylus is held usually under the right index finger. The forearm is down on the table, and the wrist moves straight up and down as you use the stylus. The left index finger plays an important role because it leads the way. You want to avoid as a teacher words such as backward or reversals because they really aren't. You really want to talk about writing in another direction. When the student can hold the stylus correctly, explore the cell. You have them put it in the top right, bottom right, top left, bottom left. And then you teach them that the first side they come to, you're going to call first side. And the next side, you're going to call the second side. Because as you work across the paper from right to left, you come to the first side, then the second side every time. You keep the shank of the stylus against the metal on the side of the cell when you move up and down. You can feel the ridges in there and know exactly where your stylus should go. It's notched. Some people use numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I prefer to use top, middle, bottom, first side, top, middle, bottom, second side. If you look at the letter P in Braille, when it's read, as you read from left to right, you have top, middle, bottom on the left side, which now we're not going to call left anymore. We're going to call it first side. So it's top, middle, bottom, first side, top, second side. And this is true whether you're reading or writing on a slate. So if your student can describe a Braille symbol when reading, they can easily write it on the slate and stylus. First side, second side. When you come down and write it then on the slate, the first side is also top, middle, bottom. The second side is top. So you're using exactly the same terminology whether you're reading or writing. It's often fun to start with simple things like a line of C, where you do first side top, second side top, and go across the line. You want to get the habit with the beginner of what I call place press. You get your stylus in the right place and then you press it. And before long it goes so quickly you're not aware of any of those differences, but it does help if it's in place and you go straight down before you push it. Otherwise you get resistance from the metal. Don't overcorrect. Don't be concerned about any mistakes. In the beginning you're only working for muscle strength and coordination. 2 to 5 minutes of practice daily is plenty for a beginner. You don't want them to get tired nor discouraged. A more advanced student can have fun with 27 or 28 cell sentences, depending on how many are in the line of your slate. A sentence such as, speed on the slate will come in time, takes exactly 27 cells on the slate. It's a way of self-monitoring what you're doing. If you begin in the first cell with a capital, and in the last cell with the period, at least you have the knowledge that you had the spacing correctly and you were trying to make the right signs. Some people like to start with rhyming words to give lots of practice on the same letters. The rates at which people can become proficient on the slate vary, of course, with the individual, but those people who use the slate daily become very, very fast.
January 19, Maeve, F2.
The system developed by Louis Braille became the key that opened the door to a world of books and written communication for individuals who are blind. It makes writing communication possible in all situations. And it is this